Hi. So today I'll talk about serialization, which means just how to actually store data. So let's think of it. What's serialization? So it's just converting data structures, right, or objects, into a format that can be stored, transmitted, and reconstructed later. Very simple, right? But there's many ways to do it. So today we'll talk a bit about how you can do it, what are the trade-offs maybe, and then maybe what you should choose for your project to make your life easier. So this could really help with your catalog if you think about it, right? Let's go through an example first. I think it's very intuitive. So let's say you have an array. This is the array 007, 2, 3, 9, right? This goes through a serializer. Let's make an abstraction and not think of this first. So this just converts the data, as we said, into a format, right? That can be written and then decoded later. I converted it into this format, which is binary format. You will use it probably in your project. I opened it with VS Code, but VS Code doesn't really know how to read this, right? Because it's non-human readable. Of course, you can install an extension, you could probably read it. But I wrote a program that deserializes the data, right? And it shows us actually how it's represented in memory. So it's 0, and then 0 again, and then 7, and then 2, and then 3, right? It's all of these, right? And 9 at the end, right? So what I did was just use mmap, which we'll talk about a bit later. But what this does is just, it mirrors what I have in memory and a data structure with a file, right? And it's a system call, like read or write and open. These are all system calls. So what can we serialize really? I think anything, right? But you have to be very careful about some things. So it can be very useful for saving data structures to files and transmitting over networks, right? But you need to really take care about some things, such as pointers, right? Because pointers are only valid for the runtime of a program, if you think about it, right? So if I just write a pointer to a file, like an address of something, it's not going to be valid whenever I open the program again and run it again, right? It could be something wildly different. And if I try to dereference that pointer, I get undefined behavior, right? And we don't want this. If you've taken CS61 or any systems programming class, you know that undefined behavior is very bad. It will probably break your code in the best case, right? And not just maybe work with some random values and make it very hard to debug, right? So take care about this. When you're serializing structures that have pointers, maybe try to work with offsets or like try to store extra data or something like that, right? That could help. But don't serialize pointers directly. You have to take care, right? So you maybe want to create some methods for like serializing data structures and deserializing them, right? Okay, so since we've talked about this and I warned you about dealing with pointers, let's talk about formats. What formats could you use? Like there's human readable formats for sure. Like there's plain text is a very good serialization option maybe, right? There's also, oh, I didn't want to thumbs down. Okay, there is also serialization as like JSON or XML, right? These are very good, tested. There's many parsers out there. You can write your own parser for this. But maybe this is a bit too complex, right? So let's think about this recipe for remaining vegetable spread, which is amazing. But let's think about it in JSON format. There's this nested format. We have arrays. We have all of this, right? This could be overkill for some like very simple applications. We have XML, which is also has like a format. It has a spec. You can check it out and write your own parser and coder and decoder for this. How about something better? If our recipe always has this exact same format, like name, number of servings, ingredients, and ingredients always has like name, quantity, unit, we can just serialize it as this. That's good enough, right? Because we know how we're going to decode it. Or we can just serialize it as binary, right? Since this doesn't really have pointers inside, maybe you could just do this. It's up to you, but I'm just presenting all the choices we can make here. There's trade-offs for everything, right? JSON XML could help you support very complex things, but it takes a lot more time to write a parser. While this spread, like like putting it into a list of strings could be very easy to implement, and maybe that's exactly what you need. How do you actually serialize though? Let's talk about the database example, right? Let's say I open the serialized data, I read it, then I process it. Processing means I read the information that's available, and then I put it into memory, right? Like I actually convert the data structures, like C++ data structures or C data structures, right? So you could imagine this can help you create your tables, your columns, your generalized columns, or whatever you're using, right? Then we do some work. Maybe we create some columns. We create a table. something like that, right? When we shut down, we still need to update our serialized data, right? We need to update it with the new information that we have from the data structures. You could choose to update it, you could choose to rewrite it, it's up to you, right? How about mmap? I mentioned mmap before, right? What's mmap really? Well, you could look at the manual page. I think it's very helpful for this project. And you might want to consider it for your generalized columns. I'm going to leave it as that. Maybe post on that if you have any questions. I want you to think about this. But it could really help you because you basically have a very simple thing that needs to be serialized, right? So binary format might be very, very good for this. Many of you have probably heard of this paper. It's by Andy Pavlo and Andrew Crotty and Victor Leiss. Well, you should take a look. Maybe don't really think too much into it. It's like mmap is good in some cases, but not in all of them. Of course, it's about trade-offs. So I think for your project, mmap is very good, right? That's just my piece of advice. Let's work through a serialization bug here. This is a fun bug that happened to me, and I think there's a lot to learn about this and about bugs that can come up with serialization. So what if you're serializing your data from a Sun Microsystems ancient machine into a database, right? And then from an Intel CPU data read and reconstruct is different. Like you get a weird bug, like you don't know what's happening. It's not the same data when you load into a data structure. What's happening here? Well, as the picture suggests, it's about endianness. These machines have different endianness. So when you serialize in binary format, they're actually storing the bits in different order, right? Which is very interesting. So yeah, you need to take care of many things when you're serializing, but in our case, since we use x86-64, we don't have to worry about this, of course, but I'm just trying to show you that there are many things to consider, and sometimes simpler is better, sometimes simpler leads to bugs like this. So yeah, I hope you understood everything, and if you have any questions, please post an ad or email me or anything like that. Come to me in class. Yeah. I hope this helps and good luck with your project.